This guided meditation today is specifically around rewriting timelines of occurrences, issues that have happened in relationships, around blaming, yelling, name calling, projecting, running away, or rejecting other people. Ideally, you will have already done a guided meditation from zero pointing on creating your own inner circle. If not, we'll do a quick setting up of that, a very condensed down setting up of it. But if you'd like to close your eyes, get comfortable, and take a few breaths. And when you're ready, invite that inner essence of you or your higher self to come before you. And just set your intention with your higher self to be able to do this work today with the assistance of your higher self. And when you're ready, we're going to set up your octahedron. So if you'd like to invite a four-sided pyramid from above to start floating down, coming over your head, your shoulders, your elbows, and stopping at the waist area. And now a four-sided upside-down pyramid floating up past your feet, your knees, your hips, and joining that top pyramid. And now you'll either be sitting or standing, maybe even laying down within your own octahedron. So if you'd like to ask your higher self to fill this octahedron up with the highest possible frequency for you, and that might come in a colour or a sound, a tone, a hertz frequency, or something else, or all of the above. But just allowing your heart to fully open to receive this energy. And now asking your higher self to place you and your octahedron within a bubble of light or a sphere. And when you have that set up, setting your intention to travel over to this grid, this new grid that we're making for Earth that's anchoring into Earth at the moment. We want to go and find our exact right place to work within that grid. And now inviting your circle, your own personal circle, to come and join you. And if you haven't already done that meditation, it's simply inviting every age that you have ever been, every aspect, all your baby aspects and toddler aspects, teenager aspects, adult aspects, up to your current age, and older versions of you to come and create a circle with you. And let's invite some light beings to come and join us too, to come and stand around your circle of all these aspects of yourself. It might be other planetary beings, light beings, angels or guides, soul family, your monad, your ancestors, the elementals, maybe dragons, priests and priestesses, parted specialists, psychologists, doctors, the essences of your loved ones. Allowing your circle to become as big as it wants to. And now that you're surrounded by all these different aspects of you and all these other beings that have come in to surround your personal circle, bring forth that original wound, the very first time that somebody yelled at you. See that original wound, that original moment, and feel it. And if there are any emotions or thoughts or feelings that are limiting you, simply send those into the center of your circle, surrendering if need be, if there's any resistance, but releasing this energy into the center of your circle for transmutation. And ask your higher self to rewrite and rescript that original moment for you, that timeline. And when you feel that this is being done, invite that person. And if they're an adult or somebody that you're not comfortable with, invite that person to shrink down to their child self. And then bring them into your heart. Now invite the part of you who very first ever yelled at somebody else, looking for that original moment, becoming aware of who it was and the story, and your feelings and thoughts and emotions around this. And again, surrendering or releasing or simply placing these feelings and emotions or thoughts into the center of your circle for transmutation. And looking to this person that you first yelled at and inviting that energy that was dumped on them back then back over to you, and sending that now into the center of the circle for transmutation. Now you can invite this aspect of you who had that behavior to either come into your heart or to take their place in your circle. Thanking your higher self for that assistance and asking your higher self if another one can be done. And so let's look at being blamed or blaming. So let's invite the very first instance where you were blamed for something. Inviting the storyline, the person to come before you. Remembering that original wound. And taking note of the thoughts and the feelings and the emotions. And surrendering that and releasing that, placing it into the center of your circle for transmutation. And now inviting that person who did that to come into your heart. And if you can't bring them in as an adult, shrink them down to their child self and invite that wounded child into your heart space. And have you ever yelled at somebody? Allow the very first moment that that happened, that original wound that was created, to come before you. Seeing the scenario or the story and becoming aware of your feelings and your emotions. And allowing those feelings and emotions and thoughts, if necessary, to be placed in the center of your circle and transmuted to their highest potential. Also becoming aware of what was dumped over onto another and inviting that back into your space. And again, now sending that into the center of the circle for transmutation. And now allowing the self that did that to ask the higher self for that timeline to be re-scripted and rewritten. And inviting that aspect now either into your heart or to go and take their place in your circle. And now either asking the self or the higher self for some wisdom. What was the gift in that having happened or that having been a program in my life? Now asking the higher self if it would be beneficial for you to look at doing another one on, say, projection or projecting or being projected upon, and clearing those original wounds. So allowing now the very first time that someone projected onto you to come before you, the scenario, the story, the person, the very first time that happened. And becoming aware of the thoughts and the feelings and emotions and sending them into the center of your circle for transmutation. And now asking your higher self to re-script or rewrite that timeline for you back to pure love, to its highest potential. And inviting that person as an adult or shrinking them down to a child self to come into your heart. And now inviting the very first moment, the very first time that you projected upon another. And that storyline or scenario, the person to come before you. Paying attention to the feelings and the thoughts and emotions. That you were feeling at the time and sending them into the center of the circle for transmutation. Becoming also aware of the feelings and thoughts and emotions of that other person that this was dumped upon, and pulling that energy back to your space and straight over for transmutation into the center of your circle. And when you're ready, allowing this aspect of you who did this either to come back into your heart or to take their place in the center of the circle. And now asking the higher self for some guidance, some wisdom to understand the gift that comes from having these creations play out. What is important to understand about this now? Checking in with the higher self if it would be beneficial to do another one at this point in time. Have you ever been called a name or called another a name, a nasty, hurtful name? Allow the very first time that this ever happened to you, that another called you a hurtful name. Allow that scenario and that person to come before you. Becoming aware of your thoughts and emotions and feelings and sending them into the center of the circle for transmutation. Asking your higher self to rescript and rewrite that moment, that timeline, bringing it to its highest potential or back to pure love. And now inviting this person that did that to you to either as an adult or shrink them down as a child to come into your heart space. And have you ever called anyone a name, said unkind things to them? Invite the very first moment that that happened to come into your heart space. Become aware of the emotions and feelings and thoughts that you have and send them into the center of the circle. And now becoming aware of how that other person may have felt about what had been said to them, and pulling that energy that was dumped over onto them back to self and straight into the center of the circle for transmutation. And now having this aspect of you who did that come back into your heart or go and take their place in your sacred circle. And asking the self or the higher self for some guidance, some wisdom, some deeper understanding on this program that had been played out. And what was the gift of that for you? So checking in with the higher self now, if it would be beneficial to do another one, this one based on being rejected or rejecting another. And when you're ready, invite that very first wound, that very first scenario, that person who first rejected you to come before you, and becoming aware of the feelings and emotions and thoughts. And as they arise, you can send them over into the center of your circle. And asking the higher self to rewrite, rescript that timeline for you, to bring that moment back to pure love, to its highest potential. And when you're ready, inviting that person to either as an adult or shrinking them down to a child to come back into your heart space. And have you ever rejected another for something that you judged or perceived that they might have done? So inviting that scenario, that moment, that very first moment that you remember doing this yourself, to come before you, becoming aware of your own feelings and emotions and perhaps thoughts, and as they arise, sending them into the center of the circle. And also becoming aware of how that other person may have felt, what they thought, what their emotions were, and bringing that energy back over to your space and immediately sending it also into the center of the circle for transmutation. And asking your higher self to rewrite and rescript that timeline. And now asking the higher self for some guidance, some inner wisdom, some deeper understanding. What was the gift in having had this polarized program? Checking in with the higher self if it would be okay to do one more. Has anyone ever run away from you, or have you run away from others? So if you invite that very first time, the first moment that somebody ran away from you, or that you felt that they had run away, invite that person, that scenario to come to mind, paying attention to any feelings or emotions or thoughts, no longer necessary, and sending them into the center of your circle. Ask your higher self to rescript or rewrite that timeline for you. and inviting that person to shrink down to a child or their adult self and bringing them into your heart space. And now allowing yourself to recall the very first time that you ran away, that you needed to run away from another person. Remembering the scenario and the person that was involved. Becoming aware of the emotions and feelings and thoughts and sending them into the center of your circle for transmutation. Now asking your higher self to rescript or rewrite that timeline for you. And now allowing that person that you were running from, either as an adult or shrinking them down to a child, to come back into your heart space. And asking yourself or your higher self, what was the gift in me having this program? What have I learned from it? And allowing those aspects of you that were in that to either come back into your own heart space or take their place in your sacred circle. So now if you look to all of these beings, these light beings that came in to support you and join you in this process today, thanking them for coming, for joining you and being there to support you. And thanking all of these aspects of you that made up your circle for all of their assistance today. And allowing yourself to take a step back now out of this circle, allowing all of these aspects to dismantle the circle and come back into self. And setting your intention to leave this place that you worked in the New Earth grid, and float back to that beginning spot, place you began. Thanking your higher self for all of the assistance. And most importantly, hands on heart, thanking this spectacular human being for everything that they have done and continue to do on a daily basis, for showing up. And it is done.